What is going on, Flickin' Fanatics? Welcome to the live 50th episode of Reels Like the First Time. I ended up hearing myself in my headphones. It got real weird there for a second. But anyway, welcome to our live 50th episode of Reels Like the First Time, my journey to discover everything film has to offer, the good and the not so good, all for the very first time. I'm your host, Allison Salamoni, and joining me today for another film appearing with Harrison Ford in it. It's 1979's Apocalypse Now. And there's nobody else that I would have on this show to discuss anything associated in some way, shape, or form with Harrison Ford than the movie guys themselves, hosts of the Ford Fiesta. We got Paul Preston and we have Adam Witt, and they're going to be jumping in here right after this quick intro. What's up, gentlemen?
It was so quick. We have so much intro on our show.
So much intro on other shows. So like what you guys didn't know that I called myself out on is I had the YouTube channel screen opened in my browser. So as soon as I started talking and then it started like echoing in my ear, I got very confused. So this is what happens when you go live all by yourself for the very first time.
It ain't easy.
It ain't easy.
I depend upon this workhorse right here to
this is why I need Sean and Jesse at all times. Well, welcome. I see we got some great people in the chat. We got Garth is here, Cheryl, Brennan. Thank you all so much. I'll try to get to questions and everything towards the end. If you guys want to leave your thoughts about Apocalypse Now in the chat or in the comments, please do so. But before we even get started, I hear that your stream somehow got cut short.
The first comment by Paul is hilarious.
Not before plugging that you were coming over here, which I think I just assumed because you were so excited to hang out with me. So real quick, just kind of a carryover. Paul, how was the Dial of Destiny?
Well, to be fair, we said we were coming over here, and then I think YouTube shut our show down. All shows have been shut down on YouTube, so people will come over here. So that's kind of cool of them. I don't know who you're paying, but
it's a work strike.
No, we did blue ball a little bit. The folks, anyone who might have been waiting for a Dial of Destiny review, I did get into an early screening, and for a Harrison Ford fan, it's very exciting. And for me to say that reports of the movie's demise have been greatly exaggerated, and that you should raise your expectations, them's me thoughts. But I will spare you anything more.
So you're saying
on your show, I would have gone on a little more in my show, but I will not. But I don't want to. I don't want to leave it.
So Paul, you're saying that some people are saying this movie's not going to be very good. Apropos of nothing, they know nothing.
Correct.
They're just the type of people that think the next thing is not going to be any good, right?
Yes.
So I reject the premise of that statement that you're responding to by saying, no, it's actually good. Shut the hell up, anybody who's just back. Like, next thing ain't going to be good.
Yeah.
New thing not going to be good.
So Twitter, Adam, is what you're talking
about. I looked at actual legit reviews that came out of Cannes, and I could immediately discount all of their arguments. I know I'm a big fan, and but I'm not an apologist. I mean, I've admitted when Harrison Ford has stumbled. But this is not that. There's nothing as dumb in this movie as the communist fighting monkeys of Crystal Skull. So they never achieve that. They stay in an area that's Mangold-esque in terms of, going after the action and the fun and the sci-fi all wrapped up into one big, beautiful package. It was a good time.
Question everybody's asking, Paul, is there a Nazi monkey in this movie?
Yeah. One thing said, convoluted. I'm like, no, they need a thing. The Nazis need a thing. It's the race for the thing. Boom.
Convoluted.
What do you
mean?
What is wrong with people? I said this in our review of Presumed Innocent. Presumed Innocent begins with as much exposition as The Fugitive ends with. And it's just people in cafes having conversations. And you're like, they are piling on the amount of things that happened before this and things that happened in that person. And I said to Paul, I go, there's so much exposition at the beginning of Presumed Innocent that if it was a Marvel movie, everybody would go, come on, I didn't see Thor 2. You know, you're like, there's exposition in every movie, you dipshits. Yeah. Curse.
And of course, you know, Brennan coming in with also the right answers. He trusts Paul.
Yeah,
well, that's exactly what you got to do. Brennan also wanted to say hello to his favorite people. He loves Apocalypse Now. It's one of his favorites, but only the theatrical cut. Excited to see what we have to say. And I've chosen the perfect guest to join me. So I think that's a great segue into talking about this flick. So we are discussing 1979's Apocalypse Now, but technically I think like 2019 is the final cut of Apocalypse Now. So there's some extra stuff. So granted, I've not seen either. You gentlemen said we have to do the final cut, which first of all, my only tip that I have is I feel like every time I have you guys on, they're like, which version of
version? I know you're not picking extraordinary measures. So yeah.
And just to answer in advance, Allison, when you have us on for Regarding Henry, we will be watching the Ritz Crackers cut. Anyway, just so you know.
Wait, but I need to get back to the premise of the show, because when it was called You Haven't Seen It, it felt like they were these great movies you haven't seen, and now you needed to see them. But you're introducing Reels Like the First Time, which, by the way, Foreigner has been in my head since you booked this on the show. Just because I love them. I went out and I got the tickets to their show in Irvine because I just got to go see their final tour.
Awesome.
What are you going to do? Not see Foreigner?
First concert I ever saw, and now they're finishing their final tour. I got to go. It's a full circle.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so now you said something like talking about the good and the not so good. So now people are suggesting you see not so good movies, or is it just they say it's good and your take is that you didn't care for it?
Both.
So Reels Like the First Time is a show about seeing movies for the first time.
Yes. And it was a name change that was kind of I did for myself because of just other ongoing situations. But I don't know. I've made lists and people have made suggestions of things that I should see. And so
yeah, we're about to go down some that you don't have to worry about having not seen.
I love that because I mean, a lot of it too is like just things that like I actually haven't seen that I've always wanted to see that I think would be because I mean, we have to go off the fact that obviously film is subjective in a sense, but like when you invite people onto your show and they want to do something that's not on your list, I mean, it's what they love. And then sometimes it's not so great. But then again, like I also watched the first episode we did this year was 2001: A Space Odyssey, and people love that movie. I wasn't a fan. I get why people love it.
You're watching it in 2023. I mean, it's boring.
It's nothing to wrap your arms around. There.
Try seeing it in 1969. You'll really like it.
Unfortunately,
that's the way it is with everything. You got to work.
Garth in here, you know, again with that all these final versions. This is what speaking of which, just because I gotta, you know, tell the story now from when I first started as You've Never Seen It and had you guys on for Blade Runner. I remember telling you guys, and I told my husband, oh yeah, I'm gonna do Blade Runner with the movie guy, you know, big Harrison Ford, da da da. And my husband goes, oh yeah, which version? I went, what?
Huh?
What do you mean? What? And so the same thing happened here. So I ordered from Amazon the 4K Blu-ray final cut version of Apocalypse Now that apparently came with every other version of it too.
Yeah,
and it was on sale. It was cool. And it was on sale. So like I had to spend that much money for it.
Oh yeah. There's like $12 and I have 4 versions of that movie. I'm like, okay.
Every version possible. And I still refuse to watch all of them because when Paul told me how I needed to make sure I have no distractions, turn your phone off, be immersed in the movie. I was like, oh my God, how long is it? And you're like, I don't know, 2.5 hours. It was 3 hours.
Oh yeah. But the point is, let the movie work on you.
Yeah.
Don't sit there.
This one you gotta get into this movie.
Yes. No. You have to, because there are things that you're going to miss because not to like come off as like a hot take or offensive in any way. It's kind of a boring movie.
100%.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's boring. You got to work to like it, but when you do, it's really rewarding.
Oh no, I disagree with that.
It's some of the most beautifully
like the Thin
shot
Red
nothing.
Line is more
yeah
boring than that.
Yeah. Thin Red Line haven't seen, so maybe we should add that onto the list. But I digress. First off, so we got to talk about why did we think Apocalypse Now is the next movie needed to be covered with you guys on this show?
You mean Apocalypse Now, the movie where Harrison Ford sends the title character on his mission? Harrison Ford explains to the captain what his mission is going to be and sets up one of the most pivotal lines of the movie.
Yes, that's that. There we go.
Starring Harrison Ford and others.
Ford and others.
The whole first 10 minutes with Harrison Ford.
My first question is, were you surprised by the appearance of Harrison Ford after kind of not knowing when he's going to come in and getting into the mood of the movie with the opening sequence? This is the end. Were you surprised by Harrison Ford? You go, oh, that's right, Harrison Ford's in this.
I knew he was in it, so of course, like I'm going, like, oh, when's he gonna show up? When's he gonna show up? And then he pops up, and I, of course, did the audible. There he is, and then he was gone, and then that was it. And I'm like, oh, he's all done.
I know.
Like you guys were not wrong about that. You're like, he's only in it a little bit, but it's a great movie, so you have to watch it.
But who did he play?
He played.
Is he a colonel? I think I'm trying to look.
Colonel.
Yes.
So he's Colonel Lucas.
Yes, and he was excellent. I loved the delivery of his lines. I loved everything about it. I thought he looked. I mean,
exterminate
dapper AF.
Exterminate.
Did you catch that affect? I
command.
thought isn't that fascinating? That the idea is that what he's being asked to do, and also I think the reason Apocalypse Now is a tough watch outside. Well, there is no context for it. It's not a war movie. I think we told you that ahead of time. It's not a war movie. Don't expect a war movie. Mm-hmm. It's a tone poem. But what is so fascinating is that, and of course, this is Coppola. You know, anything he finds that's happening, he's going to incorporate into the movie. It rains, then it's raining in this scene. This thing fell down, then that's how we're shooting it in Destroyed or whatever. You know, I could tell that affect was something that Coppola encouraged him to keep doing, and you realize that it's because the end point is, and then kill this guy, right? But he's all about the detail. Well, you gotta go down the river, and you gotta do this, and you gotta do that. And as he brings himself to the real point of it, you know, because at the end of that is because you have to kill a human being, he can't bring himself. He goes, just go down the river. Yeah. And, you know, I thought that
and was the final layer, of course, is that he's a military colonel asking Martin Sheen's character, who is also a soldier, to kill another soldier.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, American soldier.
I mean, it's an American soldier. I mean, you can't. Can you do
and
that?
Then even when you when you think about that too, like in the beginning, what he's being asked to do, and then you make the connection all the way, you know, then you're at the end of the movie where Sheen is walking in, and in the you know, what the voiceover is making the comment, you know, they would have made me a major for this, and I'm not even in their fucking army anymore. Like just watching like that whole shift change, like in the beginning, the voiceover is like, I need action. I need to get back. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then at the end, he's like, fuck this. Right.
Yeah. He's a changed man. There's just no going back. You know, there's no go back to civilization at that point. He's going to go back. He's going to have but you realize it's just never going to be the same for him. You know? Right.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, let's take a step back. We skipped a scene. The opening of the movie, how did this wash over you? This is the end by the Doors,
right?
And you're seeing this montage and this sequence, and you know, a cross cut from helicopter sound to is this any of this sort of like, because you really have to get into the vibe of this movie. Did you ever feel swept up in the journey of the movie?
Yes. I mean, as it was, you know, it's so funny too, knowing that with the little research that I did going into this, and knowing that one of the writers on it was John Milius, and I covered Red Dawn on this show, and knowing how he wrote and directed that, it really kind of felt in this case, like for someone who is who from what I know about John Milius, is very much like pro-America, pro these wars, but you have the Doors playing, you're having these little like images going in. Like I'm getting pulled in because I'm like, what is going on? Like, where is Martin Sheen? First of all, I was like Emilio Estevez. Who is this? What is going on? And I was like, oh wait, it's Martin Sheen because he looks just like his son.
I know, right?
Emilio Estevez looks like Martin Sheen. Charlie Sheen looks like Martin Sheen. Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez don't look like each other.
Look nothing alike. But like Martin Sheen it's literally like you just split him into Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. But no, I really kind of did. Like I was getting like pulled into this, you know, it's hot and it's sweat, like you're feeling it. Like I'm pretty sure I took like the blanket off that I was wearing, like every time I would see Martin Sheen starting to like pour sweat. But I could tell that it wasn't going to be, like I said, it wasn't going to be a war movie. And it wasn't going to be like, America, fuck yeah. Like I knew like we weren't going that route. It felt heavy to start. And I feel like that heaviness just kind of sits with you throughout the film.
Yeah, mission accomplished there. You know, shots of napalm and the unsteady camera and Martin Sheen, I think literally having a heart attack in those opening sequences.
Yeah, right? Like he did have a heart attack like during the set.
So if you're off kilter, job well done, opening of movie.
Yeah. It felt uncomfortable and felt heavy, which I think was because one of the things I looked up with this, since we did the final cut, I looked up what scenes were extra. And I believe one of those scenes was the Playboy scene where like the models came in and they were doing the USO show.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I'm glad that was in there because it brought some lightness just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then the shit hits the fan when all the soldiers start getting crazy and they have to take them all away. And you just see Martin Sheen laugh and get up and walk away, like ready to go to the next, to the next thing. But it's like a moment like that when you have this super heavy movie going up until that point. And then this moment happens, you're like, oh, okay, a little bit of like, you know, USO fun. We'll see what happens. Nope. Shit's still hitting the fan. Still just sinks right in.
Well, that's what's interesting about the journey into the heart of darkness, as Garth just said. You know, it's based on the book by Joseph Conrad. But it's the descent into madness, because the war is a descent into madness. So the way this whole movie is shot, that music, that sort of like ethereal music, that really works on you too. I mean, you're looking at this beautiful photography of things, and just the way everything is photographed is just amazingly surreal. You got that music, and it really draws you in, and you really are a part of the journey. So when strange things happen, like getting attacked by a tiger, or the story of war, having to kill a boat full of people because you don't know if they had a gun or not, like that's the madness of war. And then the Playboy, and then the acid trip, and my favorite, which is the Robert Downey Sr. Robert Duvall.
Somewhere we're getting there.
Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore.
Right?
Colonel Kilgore.
Great
Are
name.
these just the insanity of what war allows you to do? There are no rules, so I find that but it took a few times watching for me to really appreciate the journey that it's taking you on. And it took me 4 times watching it to find Colonel Kilgore's scenes hilarious. Funniest scene. Yeah. Hilarious.
It really is, like, especially when you, like say, you look at back on like the heaviness and where this movie's going, because it's not going to have the greatest, happiest ending of all time. So, I first of all did not know that this is where that line comes from. I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Oh, you did?
So I heard it and I went, oh, there it is. That's what this movie is from. The surfing stuff had me cracking up. I'm like, you're literally blowing up a forest and people and humans, and you're just like, look at it. You look at the waves. Like, the whole reason you went ahead and did this was because there was a pro surfer with Willard's crew and you knew who he was, and now it's like, okay, fine, we'll take you in there because we've always wanted to surf this anyway, so we want to see what you got.
And it's like, and at first it's like, oh, he gives the names of all the people, like, oh, he's so and so, he's from here and clean, and he was the kid, killing kid, and the surfer thing was just dropped in there. But then Colonel Kilgore, who's ostensibly on a mission to fight for, I don't know, American freedom or whatever, he's just in the middle of like, we got it. And I love the way he shouts everything over the helicopter rotors.
Yeah.
And that Robert Duvall voice, I need 2 men over here, and something like that. And it's just like the most concerned about this and that. We got to get 2 men up there. And it's like, hey, there's a pro surfer. All right, hold on. We can.
No, I think he's literally giving water to a local who was being abused at the hands of the soldiers. Yeah. He's got the canteen. He like the canteen, and that's the head over there.
Yeah, and he's like, anyone who's willing to die for his country.
Yeah. Anyone who's willing to die. And then as soon as he finds out about the surfer, he tosses the canteen aside from the guy who's flying. He's giving it to him. You're like, oh my God, we are in Dr. Strangelove now.
And then the way that he is like begging them to stay, he's like, it's the napalm's fault. Just give it 20 minutes, Lance. Give it 20 minutes, Lance. We'll get out there. They're breaking in.
Yeah, he goes, I don't know. It's pretty hairy out there. And it cuts out there. And the reason it's hairy is there are mortars. The reason there's good waves is that there's mortars going into the water creating waves. You know?
And what does the kid say? Charlie, don't surf. Get out there and check the waves.
It's pretty hairy out there. Charlie, don't surf.
Charlie, don't surf. Out of every performance in this movie, that's the only one that was nominated for any awards. Nominated for the Oscar that year. But he won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor that year for that role from the research that I've done. But I think it's kind of crazy that that's the only one, because I feel like Martin Sheen was really good in this movie too. Like I feel like there was a lot of really good moments and roles throughout.
This Duvall won for this part?
I believe for the Golden Globe, not the Oscar. The Oscar he was just nominated for, but the Golden Globe, he, according to Wikipedia, and if it's on Wikipedia, it's true.
Oh, of course.
That's how we roll.
We just came off of talking about The Fugitive, and the reason Tommy Lee Jones wins Best Actor that year over Ralph Fiennes, who obviously deserved it more than Tommy Lee Jones. I know that's a blasphemy.
Quiz show? No.
Schindler's List.
You'll watch it someday. It's quite good.
Yeah. That is on the list. As we
never seen it. It is because it's the showier role. It's because you could put that monologue in the Oscar clip, and you can't put anything Ralph Fiennes did in an Oscar clip that encapsulates it. Same thing here. Sense. You're going to put the napalm in the morning. Oh, there's your nomination right there.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen, what are you going to put in that clip?
Nothing.
Him being silent and going, it seems
and
like
brooding.
A guy. Yeah.
And the same with nominations within the film. I mean, Ford wasn't nominated for Best Actor, but we've gone on and on about how well he underplays the role of Richard Kimball.
Yeah.
And, I think Sheen does the same with Willard, but that's not going to be as
Harrison Ford should have been nominated for this one, too.
And, just it's around the corner and just past the
Terminate. And who is the guy who eventually says that line? Terminate with extreme prejudice. Who is that actor?
This is one. This is
kind of
one
cool.
movie.
Guys, just get in there. Yeah.
I can pull it up on the IMDb.
He's not in any other movie. I don't think I think that's a non-actor.
There's a handful of them, like Charlie, right? And Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Clinton Spilsbury.
What a name.
Is that a line we ever used in the Schmodown? Paul had a line he wanted to use one time. We're going to finish this thing faster than a Clinton Spilsbury Film Festival.
I think I did say that one.
Very funny, but nobody gets it but me.
Yeah.
But nobody else understood.
Yeah.
No, that whole scene was brilliant. I think the one thing about this movie, I feel like when it uses dialogue between people, it uses it really, really well. It's not written to be until like you get towards the end and you finally meet what is it, Colonel Kurtz, or General Kurtz, or we finally meet him where like it starts getting to be like real weird. Like, what are we talking? Colonel Kurtz, like what are you talking about? He just kind of, because he's insane, right? Yeah. But up until this point, like all the dialogue between people it's very simple. You're like, what the fuck are they talking about? But it's also it's just a bunch of dudes in a boat on a river. Like, what kind of conversation are you going to have? It's very realistic, I feel like.
This movie is almost not even written. It is edited.
Yeah.
There seems to be a difference. I mean, even most of the speaking is voiceover. That's editing. It's like, it's almost a non-written movie.
Yeah.
There almost doesn't even need to be a script. You could have shot this without a script in a way,
Yeah. I think I read, again, somewhere doing my research on it, that Coppola had over 1 million feet of film to go through to edit when he was done with it. Another I thought fun fact was Francis Ford Coppola was originally like looked at to be the producer, and I think like they'd wanted, at least I saw, was George Lucas was set to direct, but he got some pesky approvals for some Star Wars movie, I think.
Some other war movie,
and decided not to take Apocalypse Now, so it fell onto Coppola's plate. Am I correct in that?
Well, so forgive me if I'm revisiting a topic I brought up during American Graffiti, but I've coined the phrase during the Ford Fiesta called genius incest, because all these geniuses of the 70s just worked with one another. You know, it was Milius and Coppola and
they all
Spielberg and Lucas and De Palma. Yeah, they had mind orgies. Yeah. But so, yeah, I mean, Milius said to Lucas, hey, Lucas was encouraging Milius to make a war movie. Milius wanted to do it because he couldn't serve. I think he had asthma.
Yeah.
And so Lucas started to make it. He shot a lot, and it was looking very handheld and sort of, you know, I would imagine that footage looked very modern by the time he was done with it. But yeah, so he goes to make Star Wars. So then by the time Apocalypse Now comes out, Coppola, despite winning Oscars, still can't get that made, and Lucas has to go, well, I got Star Wars money to help you out. And you know, because Lucas helped him out with American Graffiti. Like these guys just because it's them against everybody. All the studio chowderheads have all the worst notes, have all the lack of faith, have no vision to see what these geniuses are up to. And so it's all on themselves, and they do it for each other. They're always there to get each other's back. And now we have some of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Because these young kids are trying to make movies in Hollywood. Hollywood at that time is run by people who have run it since the 20s. That's how hip these folks were, you know? I mean, if you think there almost seems to be no tough call in movies now. It's like Spider-Verse or Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah, make that, you know, but
go ahead. Yeah. It's like Hot Dog Fingers. Cool. One of the things, so I definitely think one thing that has to be talked about when you're talking about this movie is, so for the Oscars that year, it won Best Cinematography and I believe Best Sound Editing.
Most cinematography also.
The great Walter Murch, I believe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was. I will agree. Like the cinematography, the way that this movie is shot, the way that it is edited together, the sounds. I love a film that can cut between having a really good, powerful score and a fantastic needle drop. Like, again, you talk about the opening scene, that needle drop with the doors and having that play versus like, and then you go into, you know, the air raid scene with the helicopters and they're playing the Ride of the Valkyries going into battle. And, you know, just kind of, you keep going. And then you have like a really good score hitting when Charlie Sheen is going in to kill Kurtz. Like you just have the way that it's able to go between that and a good needle drop without like one overtaking the other, I think was absolute perfection and done so incredibly well with this movie.
Because what you're watching when you watch Apocalypse Now is not a movie. You're watching filmmaking. This is a film. This is a made film. It's a filmmaking thing we're watching right now. That's what's so cool about it, is that writing is not filmmaking. Everything we're watching in Apocalypse Now is filmmaking, contrasting these images and the most basic of like Eisenstein. You know, you match. Well, obviously the most obvious one, you match killing the cow with killing Brando. You know, but there's lots of stuff like that where, there's no other movie like Apocalypse Now. Nobody film makes quite this way. It's more frenetic now when people are taking just as many chances and using the technology of the time. It's very different in that way, but it's
did you know that they actually like killed a real cow during that? Like and
I think they actually ate it too.
It would appear to be.
I didn't realize that was happening as I was watching it until I again started. That goes back into, I feel like we could just kind of jump into my fun if it's on Wikipedia, it's true segment. And that was one of them.
There's no way that's a fake effect.
You know what? I thought it might have been, and I was hoping in my heart of hearts, and then I read it and I went, oh.
Well, look at the effect something like the Flight of the Valkyries helicopter sequence is when they're all real. You know, no CGI helicopters. I mean, when they're landing, the stellar shot, Adam and I, when we recently watched it in our drunken Ford Fiesta episode with John Kaiser, if you want very interesting takes on this and his love for Vittorio Storario. We rewound the scene, I think, where a helicopter lands literally right behind the main characters in a shot while they're still zipping ahead. Like, there was so much in play. Frustrated for some of these shots. We had to rewind 2 or 3 times just for the majesty of it, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. When
is my internet going in and out?
Yes,
a little bit.
I plugged it in, man. I got the whole thing running it directly from the thing.
Did you turn off your Wi-Fi?
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
By the way, go ahead and put up Brennan here. He is a real film fan. Do you know this term?
No.
Paul?
I don't.
Am I the only one that went to movie school? Okay.
Yes. I have a podcast about shit I haven't seen, Adam. Do you think I went to movie school?
Allison, don't worry. At no point will anybody say, when they say, have you seen the films of Lev Kuleshov? Nobody will ever say, you haven't seen it. But the Kuleshov effect, this is great. Kuleshov was a Russian filmmaker, and these guys were into the montage, you know, Eisenstein, because they would make their movies on paper because there was no money for film, so that they would literally kind of like work out how movies existed in pure editing. They hadn't even shot anything. But Lev Kuleshov created a film of just a person staring at the screen, and then he would intercut a bowl of soup with that same shot, and people would say, that guy seems hungry. And then he would intercut a baby, and people would say, oh, that guy seems caring, but it's the same shot as the soup shot. That's the Kuleshov effect. Yeah.
Okay.
Good call, Brennan. I love that. The Kuleshov effect.
I've seen that. I didn't know the name. Yeah.
That's
people
awesome.
attribute it to Kurosawa, but
I've heard it done with a shot of a dog and then food. Yeah, all that.
Right. And they're like, oh, the dog looks hungry. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's the Kuleshov effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this. So, and then talking about these little shots, how things are filmed, because it's filmed very dark in certain spots. And then when I did my research as to why, like especially the entire Marlon Brando scene, the whole reason why it's very dark is apparently he arrives in Manila very overweight. And so Coppola had to rewrite the entire ending of this movie because Brando was so overweight. And they had to, and the only way they were able to film it was by dressing him all in black, only photographing his face, and having another actor that was taller double him to portray him as kind of like this almost huge, big, mythical kind of character. But like Marlon Brando was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to show up fat. It's fine.
Right. And you'll be playing one of the great military leaders. He's a Marine and cross point to 4-star, whatever, like, yeah, that's cool. I got that. Yeah, I can play that. I can play that.
But then it makes sense because, like, that's what I'm wondering. Because I'm watching this and I'm like, we're kind of getting his face, but only half of it here and there. And then, like, when you finally see him and you get like a good close up, you're really not getting that great of a close up because there's a bunch of shadows with it. And because of all of this too, they premiered it at Cannes Film Festival where it won the Palme d'Or, but did it actually have an ending when they put it there? It's one of the only movies ever to win that award without having a real ending.
Right.
Which is crazy to me. Like it's just I feel like you just put Francis Ford Coppola's name on anything. They're like, yeah, it's fine. We'll figure it out.
Well,
we'll get there.
I mean, when you think about it, this is a very French movie. It's using all the cinema tools. It's showing off cinema. And so, yeah, it does. I mean, for the French, it doesn't have a story. Who gives a shit? Like, we're not asking for a screenplay. That's not filmmaking. That's writing, so.
Right.
So it's a working print. It's not too weird, but it is funny that even not the best version of that movie. Like if I made a movie and I lost to that, I'd be like, wait, that wasn't even their best movie and I lost to it.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. No, for real. It's just like, damn, like somebody actually put in like all, I mean, not that he didn't put in hard work and ever, but like could still turn in something that wasn't all the way done. And they're just like, it's great. It wins everything. The highest is, and like someone else is like, well, my movie was done. Like it was done.
I labored. I toiled.
I toiled. I
nothing. I get nothing. I would probably classify this movie when we talk about it too. It's like I put this now like on my list alongside things like the Citizen Kanes and the 2001: A Space Odyssey, in the fact of like the filmmaking of it is what is what makes it. I understand why it's considered one of the greatest of all time. Watching it now because of how it was made, like I can get and I can understand all of that. But kind of like with all that being said, like I said at the beginning, like it was real boring for a while. I may or may not have nodded off for like 5 minutes at one point. So I feel like it can't be that.
I bet I can guess when.
Meditation.
Yeah.
That sequence is actually what's added for the final cut. And
yeah.
It isn't the best part of the movie.
I fell asleep as he was talking at a table and I woke up and he was smoking opium. So I feel like I didn't miss a whole bunch.
That's in the final cut? I thought that was in the... Oh.
No, he was smoking opium in this one. Unless I watched the wrong one, which is also very possible. But
wait a second. I don't think the plantation or the opium are in the final cut.
But I
think so. Yeah,
it is.
I have not seen Redux. So
well, I know that they originally appeared in Redux, which is a boring movie. Like it can't. The Redux cannot overcome.
We get 35 minutes in, and I end up watching the wrong film. I'm gonna have to go back and check later. I got sweatpants on underneath this pretty outfit, so I'm not gonna go look at it now. But no, I think because it did say the final cut when I pulled it up. But yeah, they had that whole plantation scene,
and the others are on another disc together, so you wouldn't have confused it.
I would.
I just forgot the opium and plantation thing was in.
There we go. So see, it's not a big deal that I fell asleep for a couple of minutes of that conversation. They were all speaking. I remember they were all speaking French, and there was no subtitles. So I was like, "Fuck this! I don't know what you're saying. Like, this is stupid. Like, what you're saying. I don't speak French." Another thing I feel like kind of having to touch on too, and I was looking over all the different people that were slated to play different roles in this movie, like how Steve McQueen was approached
and then
fired. Yeah, Harvey Keitel. That was where I was going to get to. It's
they
originally it was going to be Sheen. Sheen said, "I can't do it. I have something else." They brought in, so they gave it to Keitel. They're shooting for like 4 days with Keitel, and Coppola's like, "I don't like him. He's terrible at this." So Keitel ends up leaving and like severing whatever contract he wrote with him. Went back out and got Sheen to come in and do it. I also loved the little...
It's a real Michael J. Fox move here. I couldn't imagine it the other way. Couldn't imagine this movie was Stoltz.
No. The other thing that I also really liked learning about was like, even though because McQueen didn't want to take the role because he didn't want to be away from home for that long with the role of Willard. But supposedly...
Not the movie with a bunch of guys and not some chick that he can mack on the entire time.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Steve McQueen knows what's up. But
he actually, no, that's not my movie.
Not my thing. Not into that. But he actually wanted the role of Kurtz and was trying to I think he was trying to convince someone, I can't remember who it was that he was trying to convince to take the role of Willard so he could be Kurtz. So he only would have to go and shoot for 2 weeks. He was like, "I'll do it for 2 weeks."
It shows he's a slightly older school actor than the rest of this cast. You know, he's like, that's what actors do, right? Like, and I just work for 2 weeks and you can shoot me against a, thing like.
Yeah. I do want to point out, Reefism has a good message thing here. Lawrence Fishburne apparently lied about his age to book this film. Didn't even realize it was him until I looked at IMDb after the movie. I didn't. Like, he's so young. It's not the Lawrence Fishburne that like I'm used to seeing as a grown-ass man. Like he was.
And he doesn't have that voice. That'd be weird if the current Lawrence Fishburne voice came out of that kid.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'd be so thrown off. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. And also, yes, this is the youngest role I've ever seen. Martin Sheen.
Wait a second. I think
that means you haven't seen Badlands.
I have not seen Badlands. Should we add that to the list?
I think Fishburne was of legal age to work on the movie by the time it was released.
Oh, okay.
But not when he shot it.
Interesting. I just love the fact that Marlon Brando just didn't care and showed up so fat that he made them rewrite a whole ending.
I don't care how good an actor you are. You're the worst actor if you do stuff like that. You're the worst actor. I mean, worse in a whole different way.
Such an asshole.
What an asshole.
What an asshole move. It reminds me, I've told the story too, that reminds me of the story about the fucking the cat in The Godfather that he's holding that like just would not stop purring, and like that whole first scene of like the opening of The Godfather. So they had to go back in and like ADR all of his lines because the cat was purring so loud that he was sitting there and petting. They're like, dude, you have to put the cat down. He was like, no, I'm not going to put the cat down. I'm going to sit here and pet this cat. Because the cat wasn't, it was just like a set cat. Like it wasn't, it was just a stray. And he just picked up and started petting it.
He lived in that location.
Yeah.
I think they famously put his words on cue cards too in The Godfather. There's photos, I think,
the foreheads of other people.
Crazy.
He put it on the chests of people when their back was to the camera. Yeah.
What an asshole. God, imagine
let's go back to how great Coppola is as a filmmaker, because as somebody said, film is really just a collection of happy accidents. That is 100% true. In fact, film and art are a document of accidents, of things that you didn't mean to happen that you then incorporated into the work. My favorite example from Coppola is the Lenny Montana, the guy that's rehearsing his lines before he goes to speak to the Godfather. And the Godfather, my Godfather, on this day of your daughter's wedding, it's because they had already shot the scene and he didn't know his lines. So Coppola said, well, let's have him rehearsing his lines outside of it. Like, that's an accident that then became an iconic thing. And so like when Brando shows up, he's got a choice. Don't use Brando or figure out how to make a movie out of this. And so all those artistic shots, Steve McQueen would not have been shot like that. He would have just been standing there lit like anybody else, So it's the iconic look of Kurtz is informed by the fact that he showed up 400 pounds.
And it ends up, but also ends up being really well, right? Because like Kurtz is this like mythical, you just don't understand. And he's just kind of, he's supposed to have lost his mind, right? Yeah. Like that's what they're trying to go for with it. So when you're doing these like
he's
shots,
not acting.
He's not acting. He's being Marlon Brando. Francis Ford Coppola saw him and he went,
to the island,
he was like, how am I supposed to do this? And Martin, he's like, how is that? And yes, just yes, that's how we do it.
Boy, when you bring that up, that's the way you describe it, sounds like just such a bigger deal, than you think when you just say it. But it sunk in this time. It's like, I have a plan. I have millions of dollars on the line. I got a studio counting on me. I've got hundreds of people. And then Kate gonna change it up. Like, what? Like on the fly? Like, I just, wow, when I think about what a bigger deal that is than I thought in the past.
When you also look at like how, with what was going on with how this movie was being made, we're already over budget. It was supposed to take 5 months. It ended up taking over a year because of weather, because of shit like Brando showing up overweight, Martin Sheen having a breakdown and a heart attack on set, like
firing Harvey Keitel, just a nightmare production.
Just a nightmare, like just everything. I think they went into, on Wikipedia said the budget ended up going from like 9 million to like 45 million. And like to get up to, just to then go and gross over, it still went to gross over 100 million in worldwide, with the box offices and everything. So he still made a profit, but like,
is that at the time or as of today? It's made 100
that might be as of today.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a lot to make back then.
Yeah, no, that as of today with all the re-releases, everything that it's done. But like, at that point, like, it's kind of like, what do? Do you just throw your hands up and say, fuck it, this movie's done at this point? Or do you go and figure out an ending? And Coppola's like, we'll just figure out an ending. We'll still submit because I want it to premiere here and I want to do this. I think that kind of gives you a good idea of like who Coppola is as a filmmaker on top of all of that. You're determined to do what needs to be done to get it ready.
Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned earlier too, was just all the, there is a shot in this and, you say, oh, what did he shoot? 1 million feet of film or 100,000 feet of film?
He had to edit 1 million feet of film.
1 million feet of film. 700,000 feet of that has got to be trying to get the helicopter to land, Martin Sheen to get off, the things that are tearing down the forest as they first, Coppola's there saying, don't look at the camera, keep acting. That shot is this giant oneer that requires 10 helicopters in the sky, 2 landing, smoke, the actual cast to enter underneath this sort of thing, a tank tearing through the thing, and that is all a oneer. And you're like, the most nightmare thing you could imagine is going, okay, back to 1.
Yeah. Run it back.
Yes, all you helicopters take off again. You know, like, oh my God.
With that, because I also know, Adam, you have some time, you have some calls and meetings you got to get to.
Got people waiting on them.
There's people waiting on me.
I got to know for you guys your top 3 scenes in this movie.
Oh. Well, I think we know what our number 1 is, Paul.
Obviously.
I mean,
Kilgore?
Well, Harrison Ford.
Oh, Harrison. Right.
Look, I'll just say this. It may not be the best scene in the movie, but if Harrison Ford isn't there, he never finds out what the mission is. And then what kind of movie do you have?
He has the most important part in the film. They gave him the most important lines because that is
it's literally true, which is funny.
It really is. If he's not there to deliver those lines, the movie does not happen. You're not wrong. Obviously, I think we can all agree the Kilgore scene, that whole entire, all of it, just that entire air raid with
he's
the music.
So
so good. He's so good.
He talks, everything he says is spat out like this.
Yes.
For my, and that's all before the Ride of the Valkyries, and you spend all the time with this character, and it's a whole different movie. I mean, this movie is like 5 different movies. There's, that's its own movie. Yeah. And then to go into the Ride of the Valkyries, and you're like, we already know this guy's absolutely nuts. And you know what? If you're going into that in the theater, you don't know that they're about to start the Ride of the Valkyries sequence.
And it's
I've always known that, but holy
so
crap,
loud.
when it picks you up on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kilgore.
It's amazing. One of my favorite moments, I feel weird saying it as a favorite moment, but in the scene where Chief gets hit with the spear and he goes, a spear. And then he falls over and then he grabs Martin Sheen's head and starts to
I forgot about
that. Into it. I think that scene is shot just so insane. And it's one of those moments where at no other point in that movie did I just go did I get the air sucked out of me, but Chief just trying to take him out with him and that anger and that vitriol that he has in that moment. Whew. Oh.
Because we're it's not really hit much, although it is when you listen to commentary or people talking about this movie, this idea that Martin Sheen is responsible for taking them into the heart of darkness, for making them also go crazy along with him, for exposing them to more and more of just insanity and stuff like that. And it doesn't really come out in the movie, I feel. I mean, it builds and builds and builds. It's kind of there. But that moment of you son of a bitch, you did this to me. Yeah. I'm here dying because you had to go do whatever this, and and anybody else fighting that war could go, this is against communism or the very basic of war. If they're trying to kill me, I'm going to try and kill them first. I don't know why we started this war, but that's what I got to know. But for this one, this mission to kill another soldier and this sort of stuff, this is nonsense what we've been doing for days and days and days here. And now I got a spear in me and it's your fault.
Yep. And he's like, if I'm going, you're going with me.
Whew.
Do you guys have another one?
Let's see. What else do I? Well, I like when, it's not a great scene, but I love when Dennis Hopper shows up because you're just wait, where are we now? Wait, what is happening now?
And it's shouting that out when last time we watched this. Okay, we're in another movie.
New movie.
It's a whole new, literally, it feels like it feels like 4 films in one film. Basically, the way that it he's just okay, Francis Ford Coppola was and now I'm adding this to it because this could have been its own thing too. This whole thing could have just been its own Apocalypse Now Part 4.
and I think what I didn't realize and often criticized about this movie early on is everything that Kurt says at the end is nonsense. It's nonsense. Okay.
None of it makes sense.
I mean, I guess it's poetic, but definitely was written by Milius in his poetry class in college. It's I don't know. But the funny thing is, upon successive rewatching of the movie, and I've become a bigger and bigger fan, I was very dubious early on. But of course, I was watching on VHS early on. Tell me that's But is that now as I've watched it before, yes, everything Kurt says is nonsense at the end, but you get set up with that with Dennis Hopper, because Dennis Hopper believes all the things he's heard from Kurt,
right?
And so he's like, "Well, you can't land on a fraction, man. Huh? What are you gonna land on 3/4? You know, did you know the if is the central word of life?" And you know, like, shut up, dude. Like, but then you realize Kurt's is just that, but slowed down. You know?
Yeah. Yep. So. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it actually makes a futility of like, you know, when we're here to kill Kurtz, and he supposedly built this society that we're supposed to admire, and why would I want to kill him for this? But like, this is nonsense. Like, now you are gonna die.
You know? Now you are gonna die. We're all done here.
I don't have any amazing surprise scene. I think it's what we mentioned. I think it's Kilgore from the you know, the helicopters through the surfing. I think it's Ford, and that's not just as a Ford lover, but that scene is where they have to tell a soldier to kill another soldier. You know, it's a big deal. And then I think you mentioned the scene with the USO. I thought that was great too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dangerous. That scene's kind of dangerous when they start pulling people out of there by the helicopter.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Insane.
I mean, dropping a bunch of cheerleaders into Vietnam, I mean, it's just insanity.
Not a great idea. Not a great idea.
And also, by the way, everything in this movie, you know, you talk about how it goes over budget and all this sort of stuff. How many extras you want in that scene, Francis? The studio would like 10, and he's like, 150? Like, because that stadium is just a masterpiece of production design.
Which they had to rebuild because a hurricane came through, broke it all up, so they had to go somewhere else and build it again.
I think parts of Kurt's compound do not appear in this movie because they were blown over, and they're like, "Man, we'll just shoot the woods." Where this part stayed up, you know, or whatever.
Awesome. With all this being said, and talking about the cinematography of it all, I'm gonna go into my Letterboxd, and we will rate it out of 5 stars. For me,
you can't measure life in 5 stars, man. I mean, how many stars are there in the sky? What are you going to take 5 stars to tell a movie?
I think that
you can't land on a fraction, Allison.
I will say the movie itself, with the cinematography of it all, absolutely stunning. I think I get where it comes from, where people say this is one of the greatest movies of all time. But I also think it suffers from the Blade Runner effect for me, where it is boring for a lot of it. Not in a bad way, but it just is. Not background movie bad way, like we discussed before. Personally, right now, I'm going 3.5 stars.
Absolutely. That's a perfectly fine analysis, Allison. I will tell you, my journey to loving Apocalypse Now began as yours did.
Okay.
And then I watched, and it was mentioned in the chat here, and you have the bonus disc now. You just have to track that down.
Yeah.
Have you seen Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse?
I have not, but I will definitely go. I was going to try to watch it before doing this. I just ran out of time.
I used to like that more than Apocalypse Now, but that's only because I saw Apocalypse Now on VHS, and then I finally saw it in the theater after several viewings of it. And now the movie, obviously, I like better than the but it's a great documentary.
Okay.
And I think it will knock it up a 0.5 star or 1 by watching that.
It's sitting at like a C, so it's okay. It's like, you know, C plus.
You're young.
What's your favorite television show? What's your favorite television show? What is your favorite television show?
Oh gosh, like
maybe you shouldn't see some of these movies you haven't seen.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that.
You guys love it. It's fine.
What's your favorite television show?
Like of all time, or like just right now? Oh, oh God, of all time.
The 18. Her.
I mean, oh gosh, that's such a loaded question, because I do watch like a lot of like trash reality TV because I like to turn my brain off at the end of the day.
Okay, we're done.
Can I turn off the stream here, Paul? Can I have control over turning off the stream here?
Zero control of turning off my stream. I mean, obviously, I've loved things like The Sopranos. I've been watching The Wire for the first time, and I think that show is absolutely fantastic. I've been watching Justified for the first time, starting with season 1. Great fucking show. So I mean, I like some good stuff.
No, but Paul, you have to admit, this movie is not for everybody.
Right. She likes some good stuff. This good stuff she doesn't like. Doesn't mean it's not good.
What'd she give Blade Runner?
No. I think that it is. I understand.
I'm wrong with Allison Salomon. Can we get a third name change?
Feels like I shouldn't. Reels like I shouldn't have tried.
Love you guys. Anyway, speaking of which, though,
let me put a finale on my thoughts on it, because
yes,
I grew up and Platoon was in theaters, and so I watched that, and that was my idea of a Vietnam movie. It's more linear. It's more just narrative. And it ironically has Charlie Sheen doing pretty much what Martin Sheen did. And now, you go back and you watch Apocalypse Now, like, oh, I thought this was like a great thing in Platoon, but now it's kind of derivative because it's already been done by a similar guy. But it's fantastic. It's great. But then when you see Apocalypse Now, for me, it was then that I discovered 70s filmmaking. And then I realized why I love Star Wars as the best Star Wars movie, because it's all come out of that 70s vibe. And so there's no take. You could almost not have the take that they have with Apocalypse Now in any other time. You couldn't have that today. Today's would be a highly edited, whip smart, whiz bang, action movie of sorts, but this meditative, dreamlike, would you call it, Adam? A poem?
Yeah.
Epic poem take on Vietnam.
A dream
poem.
A movie with dream logic and dream. And this is something you hear when you study film a lot, but you don't quite know what they're talking about. This is what they're talking about.
Got it.
Yeah. So I think now that I've had this appreciation for 70s, I get it.
I appreciate. I always I don't not appreciate the things about the filmmaking of it.
It's an experimental film. I think it's understandable that it's.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I have to have you and Paul, because Paul just gets mad at me, and you always.
You know what else may not be free? You know what else may be in a 3.5-star movie? Koyaanisqatsi, or they're you can't watch a lot of these back to back with the other guys, or
yeah, for sure. But speaking of movies and upcoming episodes and things like that I'll need to hopefully record as I'm going into summer, taking a brief hiatus just because I have a lot of travel coming up at the end of this month and into next month. So
humble brag
around end of August, beginning of September. But I sent you guys the list over of movies, and a lot of them I was just going through what I had here and what I wanted to watch to see if you guys wanted to talk about.
So this is a list of things that supposedly prompt someone to go, "You haven't seen that?" And we're here to knock a few off.
So
listen, you shouldn't go into your break overwhelmed by the amount of films that you're going to have to hit coming out of your break.
Let's knock some off here.
Yeah, so listen, if someone said, "Hey, you should really see The Curious Case of Benjamin Button," relax.
You have one less movie to see.
Yeah,
it's
not the Fincher film for me. Got it. Okay.
No, I think Girl with the Dragon Tattoo on here next. Jump to that.
Okay.
But of course, none of these have reached the heights of Seven or Fight Club, and hopefully you've seen those.
I have seen those. Those okay. I have seen.
Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker. Is that on there?
If you've seen Parenthood?
No.
Oh. You haven't seen that?
Parenthood?
There we go. That's on the list.
Really?
You gotta say it, Paul.
Oh, there's the show. It's called Really, Alan?
Really?
Right? But real,
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, then you got to get My Blue Heaven off of this list because you need to see Parenthood ASAP.
Okay.
Priorities.
It's magic. The movie is magic.
Okay.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
I already did that episode. I did that with John Lestrina.
Cross it off.
Well, cross it off of here.
Question though, when you told John Lestrina you'd never seen it, did he go, "You've never seen that"?
Have you met John Lestrina? That's exactly what he said.
Not the one of those I would recommend, which would be probably 5, maybe.
That's what everyone's been saying. I apparently watched some of the wrong ones.
Julie and Julia by Nora Ephron.
Yeah, I got on a Nora Ephron kick for a hot minute. I was like, I don't know.
And that's where everybody's Nora Ephron kick stops.
I was going through her filmography. I was like, what haven't I seen by her?
And you don't always make it through every filmography now, do we?
Listen, I could name all these movies, but it comes down to you haven't seen Schindler's List.
True.
So pivot. Mixed Nuts. I know you're on a Nora Ephron kick, but this is not quality Steve
Even
Martin.
Nora Ephron
ASAP.
recognize that movie.
Malcolm X. Okay, so you need to see Malcolm X. That is a masterpiece. It is a brilliant piece of filmmaking. And then you have it followed by He Got Game. Well, you can just let He Got Game go. Malcolm X is enough to carry you through.
I might flip that.
Yeah. What else? Then I put ones that I would. First of all, Ben Bateman.
I think you're confusing masterpiece with having Denzel in it, because he's really good in everything.
Ben Bateman wants to come on for The Edge.
Well, to be fair, the reason why I threw that on my list was I came home one day from work and my husband was watching a movie with Alec Baldwin fighting a bear. And I was like, well, now I want to watch this. And I was starting my podcast. So I threw it on there thinking that'd be like a movie. And that was the one that Ben said he wanted to discuss, maybe if he could ever come on.
Certainly there's something else Ben's seen that you haven't, that Ben would be more offended by than The Edge.
Flight.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List.
He also wanted to talk about Flight, the Denzel Washington movie where he plays the pilot that was drunk.
I saw that, but you will get into 5,000 conversations about movies, and that movie will never come out. No. And it is excellent, but it's not going to come up.
Okay,
it's brushed under the carpet of history.
Perfect.
Yeah. I do want to say something here, Paul. You can find your next one there, but I do want to say something about Schindler's List, because Schindler's List gets a bad rap, as though it caused the Holocaust, which it did not. It merely documents it. However, people tend to think that Schindler's List opens with people headed into the Auschwitz, and then it's Auschwitz for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, I had a project where I had to watch Schindler's List over and over and over for an editing project. I do have to say, and I wouldn't mind coming on for this, that is still a Steven Spielberg movie. Mm-hmm. It is not. It does not just devolve into the Holocaust. The setup of the characters, the development of the characters. Spielberg never takes the easy path, which is like, Nazis, these guys. He's like, I got a character in the movie. I have got to make him a real character, or with his writers as well. I think that's a very misunderstood movie, and it is a great movie, and it is a movie I enjoy rewatching.
Absolutely. You are more than
downer ending.
You are allowed to come back by yourself, Adam, because you don't make fun of my decisions when I give my movies the star ratings that I do. I don't ever disappoint you. You always.
I'm just saying, there's 1 million stars in the sky. You can't do 3.5 stars. You can't star on a fraction, man.
Paul, you can come back too. It's fine. Sometimes we need ratings. It's okay.
No, we're probably coming back for 2049, because by then we'll have hit that on our show.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just saying, this is a lot. This is a lot. If you want to just free your, it might be too much. You can let go of Moonrise Kingdom. You got Rushmore on here. You're good. Let go of
wait, you haven't seen Rushmore?
Drunk Love. Have you seen the other Paul Thomas Anderson? Punch Drunk Love is great, but have you seen Boogie Nights? Have you seen Magnolia?
I've seen Boogie Nights. I've seen Magnolia. I realized I don't like Paul Thomas Anderson. I liked Boogie Nights and I enjoyed Magnolia up until the end of it. And then I felt like I wasted 3.5 hours of my time for that to be the ending.
Right. He's good and sucks.
Yes.
I mean, there are just those filmmakers like, oh, he's very good, and I hate these movies. Yeah.
Well, it's like everyone. I get a lot of shit because I'm not a fan of. I tell people I've only ever watched There Will Be Blood once, and while I understand how amazing Daniel Day-Lewis is in it and Paul Dano is in it,
right.
I did not like it.
Who gives a shit?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, he doesn't have movies you can wrap your arms around. For sure.
No, but you know which one you can wrap your arm around? I think the one essential, Boogie Nights, but the other essential Paul Thomas Anderson of just like warm hug, put it on in the afternoon, have fun with it. Hard Eight.
Okay.
Hard Eight was for years. I mean, Boogie Nights still the best, but I was like, as he got so difficult as a filmmaker, and I understand he's doing artsy stuff. He's trying to do Coppola. He's trying to make it hard to watch his movies, which is fine. It becomes a journey, and then you got to work. You got to put in work to like certain movies. Apocalypse Now is a perfect example. You just got to put it in the work. Well, sometimes I don't want to put in the work, especially if it's Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't want to put in the work to find the symbolism of Magnolia. This looks stupid what you're trying to do.
And then I read an article, be like, well, look at the sign he's holding during this. And I'm like, I don't fucking want to. I just want to watch the movie.
No.
Philip Seymour
Tell
Hoffman
me a story.
and Tom Cruise have incredible performances in it.
That I will never watch again.
Never once. Do not care. Never want to go back to it.
Those are great performances that I will never watch.
I will never watch them again
because I don't care.
Well, gentlemen, before we get
wait. I need to close this part out with one other thing. Adam, should she watch The Towering Inferno?
No.
Okay. Really?
You can't
if you want. For Best Picture, but
actually, you know what? I would say yes, but I would definitely not say like you haven't seen that. You know what? Towering Inferno, it is such a throwback to its time. It is how movies felt that year.
I mean, I did see Skyscraper with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I was told it was very much the same thing.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the better version.
Okay, but I will say this. Your back is got for North by Northwest. I think Adam, you agree with me on all these. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Raging Bull, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You're going to hate A Clockwork Orange. It's a masterpiece.
Raging Bull's going to bore her as well.
Yeah. Sneakers, Big.
Sneakers. That's one you'll dig.
Yeah, The Sting.
Actually, Sneakers is a perfect movie.
Bit of one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're giving high praise, so I'm excited for
it. And of course, Raising Arizona, which you should have seen by now. And the two that are sketchy that not everyone would agree with, but I will give you my blessing. Three Amigos, which is just one of the greatest movies of all time. It's
perfect,
really
silly,
not great that you will absolutely eat up.
And don't confuse it with a film, which is what all the critics did at the time. It's like, are you nuts? Did you go into that and go, well, let's see what kind of cinema we have here?
You know, I just reviewed Book Club, The Next Chapter.
How was that?
Which is tracking at about 47% on Rotten Tomatoes and 84% with audiences because everybody reviews it, but only the people who want to see it go see it.
Yeah,
so there's a big discrepancy, and you can see exactly why. A big flaw in your vegetable
survivor's bias or something. What do they call that in statistics?
But the other one I would say that is in my top 3 movies of all time. Is broadcast news. I don't think anyone else is going to say that's in their top 3 except maybe Liz
I've never seen it, Paul.
Who's a filmmaker friend of mine. What's that?
I've never seen that movie.
All right, you guys should both watch it. And it is.
And then Paul can yell at both of us depending on how we decide to rate it.
It's so prescient though about the future of the
news
business, which we're in now. You can see James L. Brooks predicting style over substance in the future of news.
Okay,
that in real life.
No, real life is the future of reality television.
Future reality television
with Albert Brooks. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, very cool. All right. Well, now that we have my slimmed down list, you guys can send that back over to me. We'll get it all worked out.
Okay. And then next time we'll watch THX 1138, right? You think that'll work for Allison? I mean, I can walk her through it.
Big fans. Gentlemen, before we get out of here, where can people find you guys? What do you have going on?
I'm right here, Allison. Did something go wrong with the feed?
Huh? What am I going?
Yeah, I am also right. It's all right here, right? Paul Preston, LA. That's
me. There we are.
The Movie Guys everywhere. You need it. TheMovieGuys.net is where you can find down on the bottom there our Ford Fiesta podcast. We're watching every Harrison Ford movie. Doing a show, a real interesting show. One of the things I'm proudest of because we write really good comedy when we recap the films. I mean, we think it's good. We do some Harrison Ford news.
If you like us, you'll like it.
And then real big, epic conversations with great guests about these particular films. So it's a lot in there. It's not all the same thing the whole show. So as you listen, the show, what the content is varies, and it's keeps it exciting, I think.
And you get to follow the journey of 2 Harrison Ford fans who met through Harrison Ford, who've always loved Harrison Ford, rediscovering Harrison Ford in every facet by starting with his very first movie, which makes something that we know we like The Fugitive or Patriot Games, really a completely different rewatch. Mm-hmm. Like the Patriot Games was a synthesis of his action era combined with the era where he tried to eschew all of that by going Mosquito Coast and all these sort of things. So it's like, it's been really rewarding.
Yeah. And I even rewatched Crystal Skull, which I hated for 19 years or whatever. How long has it been? It's only been 13 years, whatever. But
it feels like 19 years.
I was waiting 19 to see it. That's how I got the number. I was waiting 19 years and then was horribly disappointed. It's still not good. But the last time I watched it, boy, is it fun just watching him.
Yeah.
It's fun just watching him. Yeah. And it's just fun watching him in Dial of Destiny.
I hate to break it to you, Paul, but we watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull out of order because it was at the New Beverly. We are still at the Fugitive with the show. You are going to have to watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull again when we do it for the show. We might make a party out of that because we're not.
How unfortunate. Maybe we could time up Reels Like the First Time and when you guys hit Ford Fiesta. So because I still technically haven't seen Crystal Skull. I've seen bits and pieces, but like I've seen Shia LaBeouf jumping off of a motorcycle. So or riding a motorcycle. So we'll go from there. Well, thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me again.
Thanks everyone in the chat too.
Yes, thank you guys in the chat, all of your lovely comments. If you haven't already, please be sure to make sure you subscribe to the channel here. Hit that like button, really helps with the algorithm. You can also leave your comments on this episode and on Apocalypse Now. Would really love to see that. I will be back again in a couple of months. It's going to take a quick little hiatus for the summer, but please go back and rewatch any or listen to any of all of these episodes. You can get them all also wherever you get your audio wherever you get your audio podcasts. And until next time, my friends, be safe. Apparently, I still have to go watch more movies, but not that many anymore. So bye.
You haven't seen Dial of Destiny?
See ya.